Chair, we're streaming live now. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Overview and Scrutiny 1 Committee. All participants are taking part remotely and we are live streaming to YouTube. There will now be a roll call for confirmation that members of the committee are present. Do the roll call, please, Trish. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Clarence, it's an apology. Councillor Cox.
That'll be me, yeah. Present.
Yeah. Councillor Foden.
Present.
Councillor Gribble.
Present.
Councillor Hocking.
Present.
Councillor Malone.
Present.
Councillor Nutley.
Present.
Councillor Patch.
Present.
Councillor Rollison.
Present.
Councillor Thorne.
Present.
That's it, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Jenks, Councillor Parker and Councillor Clarence.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could you please make sure microphones are muted when you're not speaking to avoid any background noise levels? Please keep your points short and do not interrupt when someone is speaking. If you wish to comment, please raise your electronic hand and wait to be called. When it comes to a vote, if we are to roll call, the Democratic Service Officer will read out members' names. Members, please say if they're voting for, against or abstaining. Alternatively, the vote will be taken by show of hands. We will look to make a break at a convenient time, 90 minutes into the meeting if required. If members lose internet connection, the meeting will be paused for a few minutes to allow the members to rejoin. Item 1, I think we've already done that, apologies. Item 2, minutes of the last meeting. Any comments on that, please? Nope. Okay, I'll propose to accept that. If I could have a seconder. Thank you, John.
Second, Chair.
John Nutley. Could we do that on a show of hands to save time? Thank you very much.
Chair, can you ask if there's any against or abstentions, please?
Any abstentions or against?
Thank you. It's
Thank
carried.
you. Item 3, any declarations of interest? I can't see any. And are there any public questions?
No public questions, Chair.
And any councillor questions?
No councillor questions, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 6, executive forward plan. Just need to note that unless there's any comments on that. Anyone wants to say anything? No. Okay, noted, I think. Item 7, the work programme, again to be noted. Are there any comments on that? Can't see any. Okay, that's fine. Item 8. The executive member biannual update, Councillor Wrigley, Homes and Community. There will be time for questions following the update. Should questions be asked that Councillor Wrigley does not have the information at hand to answer, responses will be provided by email or via the members' newsletter. Councillor Wrigley, could I ask you to give your update to the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've been told I have 15 minutes, so I'm hoping to keep this brief. So apologies if I don't go into the length of detail that you might be expecting, but happy to go into questions afterwards. I sat down to prepare for this and I thought, what we've been doing for the last 6 months. And then I thought, well, we've got this and we got this and we got this, and it turned into rather a long list. So the very first thing I have to say is thank you, and thank you to the team who provide all of this, the team of officers led by Amanda Pujol, and of course including Graham Davey, Tony Mansour, Alison Dooley, Becca Hewitt, Tracy Hooper, and all of their teams. They have worked phenomenally hard through all of the COVID crisis. They have supported all sorts of things going through and delivered a huge amount on top of all of that. So sitting down, it has been a really useful exercise to sit down and look back, and I'm blown away with how much we've done. Today, you have on your agenda to consider the housing strategy. So the new housing strategy we've put together, we've put out to consultation. Now, normally on a consultation of the housing strategy, we may get 100 responses. This time we got 500 responses. So we had a massively a good turnout to the consultation in terms of responding. And the answers that people gave were by and large pretty positive. There were some questions in there which were mostly to do with planning issues and not housing strategy issues, but an overwhelmingly positive response for the housing strategy itself. And we'll be talking more about that later on the agenda. And Graham and James are here to talk to that. We've had a review of the Devon Home Choice. Devon Home Choice is the system that we run, as I'm sure all councillors know, to enable people to apply for new housing. This is run across all of Devon. It's run by a management team that includes all of the registered providers, all of the local authorities providing homes, and there is a common set of policies that allow people to apply and to have priority ranking for allocation of new homes or new housing requirements. It's an interesting one because we don't have a full control of that because it is common across Devon, but we've gone through the Home Choice review. We've had that approved by the executive. We've presented to a briefing to all of the councillors about Devon Home Choice, how it works. We've gone through and we've knocked on the head some of the myths about people from outside of Devon getting homes here. In preference, it's clear preference to local people. So that went through and went through very well. We've had a huge drive on the homelessness prevention and the rough sleeper initiatives. This was helped initially by the all-in policies that were put into place through COVID, but even with that, we have achieved fantastic results. And we have, I've just lost my numbers. We have an annual target in terms of homelessness prevention, which is assisting people to stay in their own home. So that's fixing issues that might cause them to be otherwise homeless. Our target of 160 households, we've actually achieved 276. So we've nearly doubled that target. And our other target, which is clear, is assisting clients into alternative accommodation. In other words, helping them find more suitable housing from where they are. And if they didn't work, that would also result in homelessness. Annual target there of some 267. And again, we've blown away the annual actual there and we've gone up to 309. So the team is working hard to make sure that people are not ending up homeless. And when we see people who are homeless on the street, that is clearly the tip of the iceberg. And the guys who are sleeping rough, guys and girls, people who are sleeping rough, have also been helped off the street as much as is possible. Sometimes people find it difficult to accept help, but by and large, people are accepting the help and being housed. So that's been a very positive thing. We've also been successful in bidding for funds to help support this initiative. We did a combined bid with South Hams and West Devon councils for the Rough Sleeper Initiative, which is basically a government-funded programme. And we have bid for some £231,000 to secure staffing for that to help accommodate rough sleepers going forward. We will continue other bids as they come up, as funds become available. There are various initiatives coming out from the MHCLG, the Ministry of Housings, Communities and Local Government, and that will help us add to our list of properties where we can help people into homes where they would otherwise be homeless. We tend to use individual housing as opposed to big hostels, because we find it works better than trying to put everybody into big sort of big hostels, which is what some other authorities do. I could talk all day on the homelessness things, but like I said, I have only 15 minutes. We have a lot of work going on with heating grants. This is where we take grants for heating. We have warm homes funding, which is helping us install 100 homes with air source heat pumps. We have successfully bid for a chunk of money, £1.1 million from the local authority delivery green homes grants. This is the part of the green homes grant funding that was announced by government that went through a local authority. The consumer version has now been pulled, but this is continuing. That will provide another households with another 100 households with air source heat pumps. And these are aimed at people who are living in fuel poverty. The air source heat pump is considerably cheaper to run, and obviously has a significant impact on decreasing our carbon footprint across the district. We have other programs that are still going on. Obviously, the same team is looking after also disabled facilities grants, helping people adapt their homes to help them stay in their homes if they need wheelchair access on steps, for example. You see homes with ramps fitted outside and other adaptations that are less obvious to the outside. We also have a program supporting park homes, putting efficient heating into the park homes, which tend to be poorly insulated, and this is going well. It's a difficult one because this is one that is going against some of the things that we would like to see, because it's installing gas boilers, but it is a condition of that funding. But it's replacing the worse LPG heaters that are not only inefficient, but also have, as I understand it, a worse carbon footprint anyway. That will be phasing out in the not too distant future. Community safety comes under the portfolio as well. We have a new antisocial behaviour officer who has been appointed and is in post and working. We have been working on the new phases of Turning Corners, that is the youth intervention scheme that has been recognised as extremely helpful across the whole of the Community Safety Partnership, and that has new funding that will take it forward. And you will have seen also implemented has been the Public Space Protection Order in Teignmouth, which is helping the police to crack down on problems caused by outdoor drinking in the areas around the Den in Teignmouth. Slightly less positive is the members IT issue in Strata. This is the changing the provision that we have for some away from the all-in-one iPad, which is eminently suitable for some people, not suitable for some who have more complex or sophisticated IT requirements. And we did talk about an Office 365 rollout commencing in April. I'm pushing for a better date, but Strata are currently talking about that for the middle of the summer. What we are looking to do, and I would like to invite councillors on this committee to think about joining, is getting a handful of councillors to form a councillors user group for IT. In other words, trying to get a cross section of councillors and their needs for IT so that we can correctly identify to Strata what people need, rather than assuming one size fits all for everybody, or rather than assuming that strata know what councillors need. It's become clear that they really don't understand how we use the IT and what we need to do our jobs. Which brings us on to, I'll come on to the section 106 housing delivery in a moment. I'd just like to say a brief word about customer services. Customer services have taken the brunt of a lot of the extra work in the time of COVID, and they have stood up fantastically. Tracy Hooper and her team have been the front of all of the grants, the business grants, the phone calls, helping people, sorting out people's issues, doing all of the extra work for the public that the council has been doing, and they have performed superbly, and I take my hat off to them and cannot praise them highly enough. Which brings me on to the last thing that I want to talk about, which is probably the largest section of the portfolio, which is housing. Housing has been is always an interesting thing. We have, in the early stage of this year, we had a very, very low delivery of affordable houses. I think Q1 this year was the first time ever when we delivered none. This was purely because in the early lockdowns, the housing development just stopped. Since then, it has picked up and gone forward apace, and we have been delivering through the section 106. We have now delivered 121 new homes, new affordable homes across the district. Just for clarity, this is largely through developers building homes and selling them to registered providers. Registered providers bid for the affordable homes that are included in any of the new larger developments. And they all bid against each other, and the developers will choose out of those bids which one they wish to go forward with. Those homes then become the property of the registered providers, and they then use Devon Home Choice to find the residents to take up those new homes. So it all ties together. The other way we get new affordable homes is when registered providers themselves build new homes. That does happen, but I think it's about 80% of affordable homes that are delivered through the main developers at the moment. In terms of delivery of new homes, the other thing that we have now going forward is the Teambridge 100. And I can happily show you that the Teambridge 100 is commencing apace. These are the two new homes, the first two up in Drake Road in Newton Abbot, two new houses for affordable rent when they are finished. And if I remember correctly, they're due to be finished and ready for occupation this summer. They have been built to a very high standard of energy efficiency, of everything that we can possibly do to reduce the CO2 footprint. You will note on the roofs there the photovoltaic solar panels. So they're fully fitted with solar panels. They'll have electric car charging points, high degree of insulation, every local option that we can possibly take. They're being built not by a big national developer, they're being built by a local firm here in the area. So it's providing local employment as well as building everything in to as higher standard as we possibly can. Sorry about the patch on the screen at the moment. That will go away. There, perfect. There is more information on the major projects page on the website if anyone wants to look into that to see what is being provided with these new homes. The other ones immediately underway are in East Street. This is a block of 5 flats on ground that was previously a car park. There has been no way that these could otherwise be developed other than through the authority developing these. And we are doing this in a way where we are taking advantage of all of the grant support that we can to deliver not only an asset to this council, but additional new homes, but also something that is, it washes its face in financial terms. So through the way that this has been built, it will not in the end cost a penny. It will make a small return, and we will have the asset at the end of the day. And we'll provide homes for people locally and jobs for people locally. So the way I see it, it's a win-win-win. If I missed anything on the standards, we have air source heat pumps in these buildings. We have solar PV, electric car charging points, mechanical heat recovery and ventilation system, and an A rating thermal efficiency. And both of these sites are bringing brownfield redundant sites back into use to provide homes for people locally. I think I've probably taken my time, unless there's anything that I've forgotten. Let me just check my list. One other thing to add, that we've also within this last period run the community hardship grants, where we have distributed £30,000 through from Devon to local projects that have bid targeting loneliness and digital exclusion and improving mental health. And we obviously have been, the team has been working with the Devon, across Devon teams in the COVID recovery programs, and they have been very active in leading some of those. So it has been a busy 6 months within all these areas. I think a lot has been achieved, and I think it's all positive. And I asked the committee to ask any questions that they'd like.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wrigley. Any questions for Councillor Wrigley? Let's have a look. John Nutley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you for that, Martin. Very, very positive all round, I think. Obviously, regards to homeless and rough sleepers, it seems good news on that, but what the actual figures, compared to what they used to be, and what do they compare to at the moment?
I don't have those figures on me. I did have some for the end of March, which what we're trying to do is get the housing numbers, the people who find new homes, published in the members' newsletter on a ward by ward basis in the future. I will find the numbers for the current rough sleepers after the meeting and circulate them and put them in the members' newsletter as well.
Okay, thank you.
You've got no.
Sorry, can I ask another one for me, or mention?
Yeah.
Obviously, with the affordable homes, etc. I know it comes under Dartmoor National Park on the planning side of things, but in Ashburton, excellent news at Longston Cross, where we've actually got 39 affordable social houses being built, and they've actually a good start on those now. That will be going forward for, I know it comes within the Teignbridge district, but I say that will be for obviously local people, but it's fantastic, because obviously with Ashburton, there's not many areas where we can actually find to be able to build these properties. I know the plot of ground that was involved there was belonged to Devon County and a private owner. And at one time it was earmarked for a primary school, but I think that's now not required. And I say it's great news that we've got these houses going up. But yeah, just a point making on that one.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, that is excellent news. And there's a number of other programmes like the new bungalows in Denbury, and there's a range of programmes that we are working with individual communities to bring forward small developments in different places where they can be done, involving community land trusts and involving the local community to bring those forward. They take a lot of time and cajoling to bring into fruition, but they're certainly well worth it when they happen.
Don't seem to have any more questions there.
Chair, I see Mike Hocking and Adrian Patch with their hands up.
Okay, sorry, my thing isn't working very well. Councillor Hocking, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Mine's just hopefully a quick question. We have the land at in Newton Abbot, Bradley Lane, where we have the industrial estate now, and there is a plan for, I believe, 170 social housing, stroke affordable housing, which is good news. My question is, we have other areas within the town which have industrial estates, which don't necessarily fit within the town centre. Is there any option to actually move these industrial estates to the outskirts of the town? And I'm thinking of the main area, which would probably be around Stover, and actually using that land that they vacate as brownfield land. It will be cheaper for the council to buy, obviously, and therefore cheaper to be able to build affordable housing and social housing. Because at the end of the day, it is cheap rented social housing that a lot of the low-paid workers that live within Newton Abbot, Tingmouth, Dawlish, within the area actually need. So do you think it's time that we started thinking outside of the box a little bit, and instead of putting industrial units and that within a town centre, let's move them out and actually use the land they vacate as land that now is brownfield and can now be used at a cheaper option.
Thank you, Councillor. And yes, that sort of principle is certainly some of the areas that we're looking at in the Team Bridge 100 programme, and I would like to see us look at more areas where that can be done. Having said that, there is a fine balance between having appropriate local areas where people can walk to work compared with having to drive to the outside of town to an industrial estate. So there are some times where it's beneficial to keep that, but there will be some that may be financially viable to do that. One of the difficulties with changing such a site is that if you turn up to a company and says, right, you're going to have to move, then we end up having to help them move, and it costs a significant amount of money and disruption to move companies that are of significant size. But if there are opportunities where we can make the logistics, the money, the sums, the balance between walking to work and having to drive to somewhere out of town, and have places that would be better off as homes rather than industrial areas, absolutely, we certainly should be looking at those, yes. And if you have such areas, we'd be happy to, I personally would be happy to go around with you and see if we can find them and find a way to include them in the programme for the Team Bridge 100.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Councillor Patch, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Wrigley, for an interesting presentation as well. In my ward, we've recently had questionnaires going out for a housing needs survey, and I'm sure we're not alone in that. These exercises take place across the district. I just wondered if anyone, or including yourself, has a look at these survey results in aggregate across the district in terms of the picture that's painted about the local housing need across the district. And obviously I'd have an interest in the extent to which that then feeds into local plan development, planning policy and planning decisions. I just wonder if that's an issue that's on your radar, really, so aggregate local housing need.
Local housing need is certainly on my radar. As soon as you start talking about local plan process, that's outside of my remit, but obviously I have an interest. To me, the most pressing thing is that we have 1,000 households on our housing needs register within the district. Every year we house about 400 of them, and every year it's slightly more on the list than it was at the beginning of the year. So we need to find affordable housing across the area that we can bring forward and we can deliver. And that's why I think the Teignbridge 100, which adds to the social housing that is being delivered, is so important to do that. And I'm looking forward to that bringing the numbers down. Affordable housing is my focus and where we can find it. And when we can find it on brownfields, I'm much, much happier.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it. I've just one question myself about homelessness. So there's various figures, I think they'll be coming up in the next section, but there's obviously a big hidden amount of homelessness. Is there any, how are we addressing that? Because, for instance, rough sleepers, you know how many roughly there are, but there are an awful lot of people that are technically haven't got a home, but they may be sleeping in someone's settee or whatever. Is there any way of measuring that?
Well, there is in a way. Thank you, Chair. That's an excellent point. There is, when we talk about homelessness, rough sleeping is just the tip of the iceberg. That is when people have got to a point where they literally have nowhere else to go, and that is a personal and a personal crisis for them and a crisis across society. You know, we should not be in a position in 2021 where people are sleeping in the street. That really should not be there. But you're absolutely right. There are large numbers of people who are hidden, who don't have a permanent home, who don't have a place that they can call home, who are sleeping on a friend's sofa, who are not apparent. It's difficult to measure the absolute numbers there because, you know, for every grown-up young family still living with their parents and bursting at the seams of the small house their parents are in, we can't tell, we can't find those. We do know some of the statistics that I was mentioning earlier about the people that we have helped into preventing them to become homeless, and the people we have helped to sort of move and find better accommodation. But in absolute terms, do we know how many people are sleeping on somebody else's couch? No. If they're not registered, you know, the house is registered with council tax, the people may be registered on the electoral roll. We could do some work with that, but people who are moving from sofa to sofa tend not to appear on any of these things. We don't really know unless we go out and do surveys and ask, and even then they probably wouldn't tell us. So through the work that the team do, we find a good number of people through the outreach teams. But in terms of an absolute number, no. An indication from what we can achieve and what we're already doing, yes. Sorry, so it's a partial answer to your question really there.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just I'm very aware there are a lot of people who haven't got a home as such, and it is pretty much impossible to get a number on that. But I think when you're looking at housing needs, there's probably a lot more hidden than we actually think there is. So the actual housing needs are a lot more than they officially are. That makes any sense.
I think so, and the sort of survey that Councillor Patch was referring to might help us. But the thing that will help us most of all, and we're very fortunate, is the national census. that just went through. And so long as we get truthful responses across the area for that, declaring all the people who are in each house at the time, that will give us a snapshot picture for the reality of people who are in difficult situations like that, where there are too many people living in a house where people are effectively homeless.
Thank you very much. Got no more questions. Thanks very much for the presentation. I think that's it. Yep. Moving on to item 9, which I believe, Martin, you're going to do a quick introduction.
Yes, just very briefly. So I think the officers will do more details on this. So the housing strategy is reviewed periodically, and we look into all sorts of areas. This not only covers the work that we're looking at in terms of Teambridge 100 and provision of extra affordable homes. It covers the work that we do in terms of helping private landlords ensure that their properties are up to scratch. So there's a lot of things in here beyond the immediate, we will deliver however many houses through, say, Section 106 through new build. It goes into a lot of detail in a lot of areas. One of the things that we put into this is a good number of graphs that show how the numbers have changed over time, because to me, it's not about a snapshot, it's about a strategy. It's about, are the numbers going in the right direction? Is this council doing all the things that it possibly can to ensure that people have secure and adequate housing for their needs? Do they have a place that they can call home? And do they have a secure place where they can build lives from? And that's a fundamental duty of this council that we should be doing, and not just counting the numbers of new houses built. And this strategy shows how we go about doing that, and shows what we're trying to achieve in terms of doing that. I'd like to hand over to more detail. Graham, is it yourself, or is it to Graham, our housing enabling and development officer, to give you some more detail, if I may. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and good morning, members. Martin obviously has introduced the paper, and I will just add a little bit more meat onto the bone if that's appropriate, and then obviously we will open the debate for questions. As Martin alluded to, we have a current housing strategy that has run for a 5-year period, and that strategy has expired in April of this year, hence the reason for a new strategy to replace it. Obviously, if we're having a housing strategy, it needs to be fit for purpose in terms of providing that overall framework against which the council can formulate other more specific policies to deliver its housing objectives. With regards to the document itself and where does it sort of sit in the council's hierarchy, well, obviously the housing strategy sits beneath the council strategy and the local plan, but it is overarching, which covers the other strategies which sit below that, which is the homelessness and rough sleeping strategy, the tenancy strategy, the empty homes policy, etc., etc. And I think you'll see in the forward plan that the empty homes policy is one of the next policies to come before overview and scrutiny at the next round of meetings. Housing obviously is an extremely high priority for the local authority, always has been, and I'm sure always will be. And the actions that have come out of the current housing strategy are reported in SPAR, and those SPAR reports come quarterly to yourselves through the overview and scrutiny committee via Martin Wrigley, and that process will continue. So the strategy that has been drafted at the moment, that's before you today, is really split into 5 main themes that reflect, as Martin has said, the work that we do. Starting with building affordable homes and getting back into our own development programme, improving existing homes primarily in the private sector, preventing homelessness and addressing rough sleeping, which we've already had questions about today, Ensuring, from our point of view and from a staff point of view, which is important, is about putting the client first, and equally as importantly about tackling climate change. So those are the 5 broad themes of the strategy. Moving on from a financial perspective, obviously some of the budgets have been alluded to. They are already in the budget report that was approved by full council in February, supporting the administration's priority of housing, jobs and climate change. And that budget obviously includes work on funding for disabled facilities grants, starting the early parts of our housing delivery, and funding for our new initiative of the shared equity scheme. So the strategy itself and the consultation which we did, whether it's because we did all of our consultation online this time or the world that we're currently in, but yeah, we have had a 6-fold increase in the number of comments that we've had back on the strategy this time round. The consultation ran from 17th of Feb to the 24th of March, and we did have over 500 responses. And the report actually lists out all of the organisations and groups that consultation went out to, and that includes members, towns and parish councils, and we've had a broad spectrum of feedback, which was really encouraging. Some just completed the questions that were on the questionnaire, but 300 of those took the time to put additional comments back in their responses, which is really encouraging. Not surprisingly, about 62% of the responses did relate specifically to planning policy. We have collated all of those comments that have come back, and any of those comments that have gone to that relate to specific policies like public open space, like planning, etc. All of those comments have gone on to the appropriate offices and those appropriate departments, and they will deal with those points accordingly. And obviously planning will have the opportunity to feed those comments into the work when they go out and consult on the next stage of the local plan. The online survey did show a strong endorsement of the 5 themes of our strategy, which was really encouraging. And then of those 5 themes, narrowly building more affordable homes came out as a top priority, but strongly followed by tackling climate change, addressing homelessness, and improving existing homes. I won't go through all of the breakdown in the table which you've got before you about the areas of which those responses came back, but clearly we have put some further text within the report. But a lot of that actually is sort of areas that you've already touched on in the comments that we've made and the comments that came back from the public. It's about, where possible, not using green fields, encouraging us to use brownfield land wherever possible, and that we will do. Ensuring that where new housing, and that's affordable housing as well, is delivered, that there are the infrastructures to support that. Affordability was something that very strongly came back, and that's why we've got a desire that certainly from the new homes that Martin discussed earlier on at Drake Road and East Street that are under construction, they are being built and will be completed to the cheapest possible rents, to social rents, not affordable rents, making them as affordable as possible to the lucky residents that will be moving into them. Brownfield land obviously was something that we're encouraged to use, coming back through the responses, and making use of empty homes, which feeds in quite well to, as I said, the report that will be coming forward in due course on our empty homes policy. Design was something that was important as well, and good design, and I think Martin's alluded to that when discussing about Drake Road and East Street, the amount of effort that we've put into good design into those properties. And again, there was feedback with regards to the allocation of new affordable housing, ensuring that we do spread our delivery not only just in the urban areas of Newton Abbot and Teignmouth and Dawlish, that we have got a spread of schemes across the district, as Councillor Nutley has referred to, within the Dartmoor National Park as well. He alluded to the scheme at Ashburton, which is really encouraging to see that coming out of the ground. But also we've had a recent planning consent that's been granted for 100% affordable housing scheme at Widdicombe in the Moor. You know, what one would think is sort of not the middle of nowhere, but a community that needs support. And obviously those schemes have been backed by rural housing needs surveys, which again was alluded to earlier. So the report then just goes on to cover the areas, the amendments that we have made. I'm pleased to say we haven't had to make too many amendments to the strategy, because we have had a very good endorsement of what went out there, and it's good that we've had wide consultation. And I just really would want to conclude in what it just literally say in the conclusion. The council is proud of its history of providing affordable housing, improving housing conditions and tackling homelessness. And we certainly hope that this refreshed strategy describes how the council will continue to expand our innovative approach to deliver solutions to meet the needs of the whole of our community. There's nothing further that I wish to say at this stage, but I'm sure the chair will run through any questions that people have. Anything affordable housing related, Team Bridge 100, I will try and respond as best as I can. The details that are in the report, James Toler, the author of that report, is here if there are any specific questions about the data that went in the report. And Amanda Pujol is on the line as well, who can cover any questions with regards to private sector housing and homelessness. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, please? John Nutley, please.
There's nowhere else to put their hand up. Yeah, I've got to be a bit cautious on this one. On 2.1, where it's mentioned about Brexit, I know obviously there is difficulties and reading through this report here, difficulties with materials and that coming forward, obviously not being able to come into the country, etc. I don't know whether you've got any updates on that side of things. And we know the stamp duty will be coming to an end on homes, etc., which is a shame for obviously new people building. But as I say, I'm just wondering what effect now it's having, the Brexit side of things, whether that's having an ongoing effect on materials, etc. for that.
Chair, are you happy for me to respond?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the things that we do regularly is meet with all of our housing association partners, and we held our last meeting 6-8 weeks ago, and I think Councillor Wrigley was at that meeting. One of the things that we do is go round the table with all of our partners to get back from them the latest intelligence from the market. I mean, obviously, when the strategy started drafting a little while ago, and obviously we had to sort of state what the national context is. But actually, from that roundtable discussion and feedback that we had from our partners who work closely with a range of developers, it was all very positive. The sounds that were coming back, and that locally there aren't any specific issues with regards to shortage of materials or labour, and all of the partners were reporting the fact that it was as best as can be business as usual. I think that's probably reflected in Martin Wrigley's earlier comments about our affordable housing delivery, whereby we started from a point in the first quarter of the financial year, first time ever our affordable delivery was nil. When we're looking at a target for the year of 128 and we've managed to claw that back to 121, it does show that that the market is moving forward quite quickly. And actually, as will appear in the SPA reports coming forward, our projections for next or the current financial year for affordable housing delivery are looking very, very positive. So I'm pleased to say that it hasn't had the sort of the doomsters and gloomsters views coming forward, actually.
Thank you
very much. Mike Hockin, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of little things, really. Reading the report is quite obvious the amount of work that Tingbridge have done over the years, and the amount of work that probably a lot of us don't realise that's being done. So we have to take our hat off for that respect for the work that's been done. Back in the sort of late 90s, when Tingbridge passed all their housing stock over to housing authorities because we were led to believe that that was the right way to go. Governments led us that way. It was obvious that Tingbridge couldn't borrow money to repair houses like a housing authority could, and then there was also we had the rights to buy, which I totally agree with, but the monies that was coming in from that wasn't allowed to be spent on replenishing the stock. So we're in the situation where we are, and because of what's happened in the past. Now, when you look at and you've mentioned design, when you look at the new houses that's going on around, and Newton Abbot has had more than its fair share of houses that's being built. Obviously, 20% of them are supposed to be low cost or social housing. When you'd actually look at the design of them, let's be fair, they stick out like a sore thumb when you start looking at the rest of the buildings around, which are being privately bought and privately owned. I think that we should be doing more to encourage the developer. I know it's a cheap way of them doing what they want to do, but we should be encouraging them to actually blend the houses in a lot better than what they're doing within the estates that they're building. And if I go on then to my next question is the right to buy. And although, as I say, although I understand it and don't disagree with what the sentiment behind it, because everybody should have the right to buy their own home. The money that's being put back, or the money that's being brought back from that, is that now being allowed to go back into, so we can go back into our stocks, so we can continue to build these most needed houses. Councillor Wrigley said earlier on that we have 1,000 people on our waiting list every year, and that we managed to sort 400 out, but each year that 1,000 tends to grow. So, there is an urgency here that we should be doing a lot more, and I'm quite believe the Tingbridge 100 is a way forward. But is it just too little, too late? And shouldn't we actually be trying to do a lot more than what we're doing? Even if we turn around, and this will obviously be a planning thing, to actually increase the number of social housing that these developers are made to build. Let's hold them to court. Why should they be making 20% profit on an estate when actually we're struggling to make sure that people who live in this area have got a home of their own? That's my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hockin. I've got Martin Wrigley there, or
if it's all right, Chair, I'd just like to respond to a couple of those comments and thank Councillor Hockin for those questions. You're right. There are a lot of things in national planning law that tie our hands, and there is not a huge amount that we can do about it. In terms of the right to buy from the stock that Teambridge sold a number of years ago, certainly before my time, that has given us a trickle of income, but that is now coming to an end because the time has run out. So when we're not going to see anything in terms of the right to buy monies coming in, we are constrained by what we can do by government in terms of so many of these areas, and by what we can legally put into the local plans in terms of restrictions, in terms of the numbers that we are demanding. We always ask for as many affordable homes in the developments as we can possibly hope for. And we will often be argued down by developers in terms of viability, and they will then go to the government over our heads and say we're allowed to do this and we're allowed to do that, and we are constrained with what we can do. The concept of pepper potting, putting the affordable homes so that they can't be identified or aren't obviously standing out amongst the developments, is already there and should be is encouraged. But in terms of building a faster rate of Teambridge 100, I would love to say, yes, we'll put in 1,000 tomorrow because that's what we need. We'll have 1,000 households. But that would be foolish, I think, to sort of jump immediately over such a large hurdle whilst we're out of the habit of building and delivering. So the idea of the Team Bridge 100 is that we're starting slow, making sure that we get it right, learning through the process and accelerating as we go on. So it's a pipeline of 100 homes that we can develop and bring forward, a pipeline that we will keep fulfilled. And I'm hoping that our delivery rate for these homes will increase and increase over time as we prove that we can deliver them, we deliver them well, and we deliver them effectively and cost effectively for the council. So yeah, fully endorse all of your feelings, and I think, you know, we need to start, and we're making a start, and we've got to start somewhere, and we're not trying to do a massive big project that has a big failure possibility. Starting slow, getting going, walking before we can run, but I want us to be running and delivering these homes as we go forward.
Thank you
Could I
very
just
much.
come back, Chairman? Could I just
Yes,
come
certainly.
back a minute?
Yep.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wrigley. Although I understand exactly what you're saying about pepper potting the social housing, low cost housing in an estate, that is not, although it is, they're being put in different areas, agreed, they are still not being designed as the private houses are. They still stand out. You can drive through any estate in Tingbridge, and you will be able to pick out, I swear, you'll be able to pick out the social housing and the low cost housing. The one at Heel Park, on the roundabout, they put a new roundabout in. Right on the roundabout, you have two huge blocks of flats. Now, if that isn't standing out and telling you something, then what is? I think we really need to sort of hit these developers with, so make sure that they put in properly designed properties that don't stand out. Doesn't make a, you know, why should I go into a rented accommodation when I'm there? It stands out and says, look, you're in a rented accommodation. Matey down the road, driving in with his large vehicle, is in a private house, and it stands out that it's a private house. We need to get this. We need to get these designs correct, and I don't think we're doing that. And it may be down to national policies and the power of these developers they have over us. But surely, to make sure that we're an integrated society, then we all should be looking as though we're living in a similar sort of accommodation.
Thank you, Mike. Any comments?
Just if I may, Chair.
Yep.
Indeed, Councillor, and this is why we have the strategies in the local plan, and that's, I think, where that needs to be. It's a planning issue rather than a housing issue.
Thank you, Martin. Councillor Patch, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to follow up some of the sort of very good points that Councillor Hawkins made about the affordable housing and rented social housing, how it stands out. I think it's not just a case of aesthetics. We're, as a nation and as members, becoming increasingly aware, particularly with regard to planning issues, the threats that poor air quality and pollution play in terms of health. And as this knowledge builds up, I think that adds another sort of raft of questions about the positioning of the affordable social housing right up against busy main roads, as has been sort of pointed out, in particular with regard to one development. I don't think that development is a standout example. I'd just like to sort of put that into the mix as something that ought to be considered if Team Bridge is to take seriously the issues that Councillor Hawkins raised.
Thank you, Councillor Patch.
So, Chair, can I just make a comment on that?
Certainly.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, this is a planning issue rather than a housing issue, and I urge you to put your input into the local plan strategy policies that are being put together.
Thank you. Any more questions here? Can't see any. I've got a couple myself. Something that's been brought to my attention in my area is, and I think it was in the report as well, of private rented landlords selling up or getting out of the business, which is pushing up the amount of people that need rented accommodation, and also people moving into the area, pushing the prices up, which is going to push up the need for rented accommodation. And the people I've been speaking to are looking to get social rented because there isn't enough private rented at the moment, which is going to increase demand for social rented. But I think there's some confusion between affordable housing and social housing, and sometimes there seems to me to be more of a demand for rented accommodation than to buy affordable. So if there's any comments on that, please. Martin?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, these are trends that we are keeping an eye on. There's a limited amount of things that we can do about it, but when you look at the, I'll try to remember from, I think it's the average house price is 11 times the median salary of the area, if I remember rightly, and that is just brings the whole definition of affordable into, it's just unreal. So we are in a situation where the housing market is fundamentally broken in the country. There are trends that are being done. The government is making changes. They're not all helping the situation. You're right, we're seeing a trend of people selling up as various sort of tax breaks that were put into place are removed, and various other financial changes in terms of buy-to-let and all the rest of it. We can only monitor the situation and respond in as fast as we can in terms of encouraging the registered providers to provide more homes, in terms of encouraging the developers to provide more Section 106 homes for the registered providers, and pushing ahead with Teambridge 100. We help private landlords. We have a programme of supporting them to be good landlords, and we have a registered, I cannot remember the name of it, the RAPES, the Registered Private Landlord Scheme, I think. I apologise for misremembering the term of it, to do what we can to help private landlords. But if they are selling up and there is a reduction in rented property, we just need to step up the pace of delivery.
Thank you for that. I've got one more question that it's about the holiday home business rates. So there's a bit of a loophole that if you have a holiday home, you can register it as a business and end up not paying any rates at all. I know it's in certain areas it's quite a big problem, and probably not such a problem in Teambridge, but I know where I live on the moors, there are a lot of holiday homes. I was wondering whether there are any figures on that or any information. Graham, please.
Apologies, just trying to unmute. I did wonder if it was a question that was going to be raised, and I did take the liberty of talking to Tracy Hooper, who heads up the council tax department this morning. She did say to me, and I know what the point you're alluding to, whether you describe it as a loophole. I mean, it's nothing that's being done that is illegal, but any ways to change it does rely on government policy to amend that. It's nothing that is within the gift of Teambridge District Council to change policies in the way that people potentially class second homes as businesses. But it is something that the staff involved are fully aware of. If you needed some further clarification, then I think Tracy Hooper would be the appropriate officer to talk to. But I did mention it to her. I think it's something that the leader has raised with her as well. but it does rely on national policy to make any changes. It's not something within the gift of Teignbridge or any other local authority, the likes of obviously South Hams and West Devon, that have a much larger number of second homes than we do in Teignbridge.
Thank you very much for that. Right, there's no more questions on that. Thank you very much for all the work on this report. It's pretty good stuff. I'd like to propose that we accept this. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Thank you, Councillor Foden. I think we need to go to a roll call on that one, please, Trish.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Foden.
For.
Councillor Gribble.
Agreed. I'm sorry, my dogs are going bananas.
Councillor Hocking.
Yeah, for.
Councillor Malone.
Sorry, I'll abstain, thank you.
Councillor Nutley.
For.
Councillor Patch.
For.
Councillor Rollison.
For.
Councillor Thorne.
For.
And yourself, Chair.
For.
It's carried. There's eight votes for and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 10, PSPO, Control of Dogs, Task and Finish Group. Is David Eaton going to speak to this, or we just need to?
Chair, I hadn't planned to speak to this.
Okay,
but
sorry.
I'm happy to if you'd like me to.
I think I'll just go for, everyone should have read it. If there are any questions on that, please. Councillor Foden.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask, I've been interested in reading this report. Could I just ask, it mentions about the online survey. When that is likely to happen? Will that be this spring, this summer? The reason I ask is that I know where I live in Dawlish, there's a lot of interest in dog issues and sort of instructions or recommendations about dogs on leads, because there's been another attack on one of the cygnets by a dog this weekend. And I was just wondering about the online survey, because I know a lot of residents here in Dawlish would be very interested in giving their views. And the other question that I have is, I really approve of what's mentioned in this report. Will there be any recommendations for enforcement through dog wardens? That's my question. Thank you.
Chair, would you like me to answer those?
Hold on. Sorry, I got distracted there. Yes, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so in answer to Councillor Foden's question, the date for any survey work has not been determined. The first time the proposed Task and Finish Group will meet is the 10th of May. That will be one of the first key points for the group to consider, how they propose to consult with town and parish councils and through yourselves and the public. So that will be considered in that first meeting. With regard to your second question, the recommendations, I wouldn't want to predetermine what the recommendations of the Task and Finish Group were, but if you wanted to make some observations through to the group once it's formed, feel free to. And if that's related to enforcement, you know, the group can consider that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we need to do
Chair, excuse me, Chair, that Councillor Dewhurst is trying to speak, I think. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Dewhurst, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, my fingers weren't going fast enough to raise my blue hand, and I was frantically waving. Yeah, I just wanted to add to what David has said, and to say that our enforcement officers are out there as we speak, and if they find infringements, things like dog attacks on the birds and swans at Dawlish, anything of that sort of nature, they will come down on people who don't have their dogs on a lead in a place where they should have, and they will levy fines. So people should be aware, and there's been a lot of publicity about this type of thing. We are rolling out signs as well that our environmental wardens can use to get the message over that in places like that, people should keep their dogs on a lead, and they also should be picking up after them if they foul. And this council will not tolerate people who abuse that kind of thing, particularly in a place like Dawlish, which is a family, a wonderful family resort, and the thought that dogs could be attacking the swans and the like is just horrible. So yeah, Councillor Foden, you have my assurance that we'll be there and looking after that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dewhurst. So we need to agree to the terms of reference. I'll take it everyone's read them. I'd like to propose that we do. Could I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Nutley. Could we do a roll call on that, please, Trish?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Councillor Foden?
4.
Councillor Gribble?
4.
Councillor Hocking?
4.
Councillor Malone?
4.
Councillor Nutley?
4.
Councillor Patch?
4.
Councillor Rollison?
4.
Councillor Thorne?
4.
And yourself, Chair.
4.
Thank you, that's unanimous, Chair, it's carried.
Thank you very much. And finally, item 10, Strata Joint Executive Minutes from the 25th of January 2021. Any questions on that? I'm sure you've read all read through them. Have you, sorry, Alistair, you still got your hand up for the last thing? Yeah, okay.
Apologies.
No problem. Okay, so we just need to note that. You all okay on a show of hands, I think? Great, thank you very much.
Chair, are there?
Any against?
Chair, yeah.
Or abstentions? I don't think so. No, all good.
That's carried by majority. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Right, that's the end of this meeting. Thank you very much for your time, and see you at the next one. Bye now.